morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined daily by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We are also 66 days away from kickoff, so tell us who your favorite number 66 is. And let's start with recruiting.
Hold on.
What do you got?
I don't have an ad read today, but I got sent some new Mando products, and it's sweat control to help get the Texas fans through the next 2 weeks of recruiting. So get your Mando sweat control today, or as Bobby Betronic calls the Grundle Bundle.
Hey, I've got to say this. This is the fun time. I mean, is it not? I mean, is this not fun? This is when I know it gets antsy around this time. But I mean, come on, you get an opportunity to add to your team. Even though you're going to lose some, the opportunity to add is bigger, in my opinion. That's the key to recruiting. It's not who you lose on, it's who you get. And Longhorns, I think, Jerry, look to, I don't know how many of these guys they're going to get, but the sense is they're going to get quite a few. And
we'll see. We'll see. Josie says, no, it's not fun. Hey, try being an Oregon. Oh, sorry. You are. Because they're not getting as many guys. But, yeah, we're going to start with the first guy up for decision, and we'll bring the graphic up after this. But we're going to start with, hey, there's a big decision tomorrow. Xavier Crowell, running back from Jackson, Alabama, down about, an hour northwest, a little bit northwest of Mobile. Xavier Crowell is scheduled to announce his decision on June 26th. And we've watched him a lot before, but we're going to preview this today because I think we continue to have the same thought as we've had. Alabama's been considered the favorite. Texas is all in on this recruitment. Texas is giving it everything they have. They've been to campus 4 times through the process, Crowell and his mom. Alabama knows Texas is the competition. And this is the way these recruitments are supposed to be. And I'm not sitting here saying that Georgia or Auburn's absolutely out of it. We've been doing this too long to say that. But you hear the most buzz around Alabama and Texas right now. And so we'll see what happens. But Alabama's been in a good position. And Robert Gillespie, this has been his job in this recruiting class, is to win out for Xavier Crowell the day he decided to reclass to 26 from 27. And look, we'll see where it goes. But I think Texas is putting up a heck of a fight against Alabama here, and we're a little over 24 hours away from decision day for one of the top backs in the country.
Jackson, Alabama is in South Alabama, south of in between basically Destin and Montgomery, a little south of Selma, Alabama, if you're familiar with that area. I tell you what, Jerry, one of the things that I noticed, and you and I talked about this very early in this recruiting cycle, Crowell was one of the guys that reclassified up a year. So he's originally a 2027. Texas was on these 2027s that became 2026s. Richard Wesley, who just committed to Texas. Texas was on him as early as possible. Mark Bowman, the tight end out of Mater Dei, who committed to USC. Texas was in there. And then Devon Benjamin, who's still out there, another California product. So Texas is maybe more than any other singular school, Jerry. They've been in on these early graduates, the guys that have reclassified from 27 to 26. I wonder if that will have any impact. Here's that list, Jerry, that you were talking about. Take us down it a little bit as you know it right now.
Yeah, so when we get that graphic up, Xavier Crowell, obviously tomorrow. Then you have 3 guys on the 27th. Chase Calicut. We've said yesterday it could go either way between Georgia and Texas. You hear a little bit more Georgia. We'll see if that's where that stays in the next couple of days. Malachi Lee, I still think is a really fun recruitment because I don't think the colleges even knew as of last night. And that's a fun recruitment for me because I know they're sweating as much as we are covering it, which is fun. But look, you continue to hear more Michigan versus Texas there. Look, he's been to Georgia twice, but they have 4 OL offensive line commitments, and they got a really good offensive tackle last week and a half ago. Alabama is trying to stay in the fight there, but we'd heard they'd kind of fallen off prior to the Texas visit. We'll see if they made up any ground. But you still hear more Texas, Michigan there. Damari Simeon on the 27th. Look, I continue to hear good things about Texas there, and that, you know, kids got announced, but Texas, Michigan, Ohio State did end up getting them on campus when it didn't look like they were. I think Penn State feels like they're behind, which we kind of said we'd be surprised if they were the pick. But, you know, look, again, 2 days now, anything can happen. But I think Texas has done really well with Simeon. A great unofficial visit and a great official visit in academic athletics combo has, I think, Texas and Michigan out front. I'm going to say this. We don't have anybody on the 28th. I think we might.
Ooh.
I think somebody might end up announcing on the 20th, but we'll reserve that for another time. Just chat. Remember I said this. All right.
Wait a minute. Is Jerry Hamilton trying to – is this your –
No, I'm just saying. On the 29th, Xavier Griffin. I think he likes Texas a lot. I think, look, would him and Tyler Atkinson go to the same school? There's a lot of talk out there. We'll see what happens. But I think he had a couple of great visits to Texas. He's not seen as an edge prospect. He is a linebacker who can rush the passer. I want to be clear on that. He's not an edge. He is a linebacker that can rush the passer. And Alabama's the competition unless Ohio State or Florida State rises up. Kendall Gerville, July 2nd. I think Texas in a pretty good spot there. You know, but how do dominoes fall? Does that give somebody the last 24 hours to recruit against you, depending on numbers? But I think Kendall Gerville, and he told us in May when I was by Fort Myers, the guy really likes Texas. He's a good fit at Texas. I think he sees himself at Texas. That doesn't mean Texas wins, but I think they've been in a pretty good spot, and Georgia and Florida are right there. And and again, I want to say this: no matter where Kendall Gerville or James Johnson announces, if they announce for anybody outside the state of Florida, y'all saw what happened with Myron Charles last year. These are recruitments that are going to go through December. So it's just the way, and it's the way it should be. I've said before, like way back on Cedric Baxter's recruitment, once Texas started putting 2 feet in the Sunshine State, that you have to recruit these guys through the whistle, else you're not doing your job. I mean, so you expect nothing less. Trenton Henderson, I think one of the top 10, 15 guys in America. I've seen most of these guys, and I think Trent Henderson's an absolute tremendous prospect. I think Florida's probably considered the favorite. I think Texas feels like they're in the fight for sure, and I think LSU's running third. Coso Paula, that could actually change the 7. I think actually 7. It was 7-2 yesterday. Now it's 7-3. I feel pretty good about Texas there, but we'll see what happens. Penn State, others have made a run at him. Bryce Perry, right, with Richard Wesley in the class, that one would surprise me. John Turntine, I think I'd be surprised if A&M was in that. As of today, things can always change. It's not July 3rd. But I feel like Texas, there's some confidence there. And I think Michigan thinks they're in the fight, and Stanford's trying their best. Who's going to be his coach, Bobby? Do we know? Caden Finley on July 4th, Texas, Notre Dame. I think Texas has made up a lot of ground. I think Notre Dame was a favorite early, but we remember when all those picks came in, we were like, hey, that was very early on Caden Finley. So we'll see where that goes. Jalen Lott on the 8th. I still think that trends away. Lamar Brown, wherever he commits on the 10th. That one doesn't end until December. Jamarian Carlton, I think Texas leads. We'll see as it gets closer. Smoke Matthews, Texas, South Carolina fight there. Some in South Carolina, I think they lead. I think there's people in Austin that are confident. We'll see. Long way away. July 11th is a long way away in recruiting. Caden Prother on the 12th. I said before, Georgia almost has to win that recruitment. And I do think they've been the favorite. Florida, Texas in it. Hezzy Kent, wild card right now. I think Texas and Florida are battling out.
Man.
Big boy recruiting is what Sarah McCoy said.
Yes.
Well stated. Yeah, well stated.
By the way, who's not on there? You know, somebody mentioned Felix Ojo. I think July. He'll announce in July.
And Tyler Atkinson's not on there either.
And Devon Benjamin. Tyler Atkinson. There's a big event in Las Vegas, July 4th. That's where Bryce Perry Wright is announcing. It won't surprise me if somebody else, a high-profile guy, jumps in and it's plans to announce on July 4th. But I want to reiterate.
Jerry Hamilton does not just add stuff in. June 28th. I mean, you don't talk in those ways, Mr. Hamilton. I know you too well. You're holding something back there.
I'm going to let the kid put out his date.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who it is. That's his news.
Hey, we're going to talk a little bit more recruiting. Number 66 is coming up as well. We got to talk about the Longhorn number 66. This one has done, the one that we're going to talk about, the one I'm going to talk about, has done very well for himself after his days in the Longhorn uniform. But first, we're going to say thank you to Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind and think you might be due compensation, give Adam and his group a call, for a free, no strings attached consultation to see if you might be due compensation from a 18-wheeler to an ATV. Give Adam a call. LowyLawFirm.com. That's LowyLawFirm.com. More than 20 years experience helping injured Texans. Thanks, Adam, for all your help and sponsoring On Texas Football.
All right, guys, before we move on to anything else, I want to bring this up. Joshy Manning, ESQ, he's always in our chat, always putting in super chat, so I wanted to read this. He said, I'm in the hospital preparing for the arrival of baby Manning, ESQ. It's wild. Baby Manning could have been born at any time in the world, and it's fortunate enough to see Arch play.
What's the name going to be? Is it going to be Arch?
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, we have Colt Monroe out there. Are we going with Archibald?
How about Cooper, Eli?
Arch with Eli, the middle name. Sorry, Peyton.
What are you going to name it, Joshy? You got to tell us.
And good luck.
In all seriousness, congratulations, bud.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Definitely cool.
All right, now it's time to get into something fun, I think.
You want to do that, or do we want to talk 66 first?
Do 66 real quick, if you don't mind. And then Jerry gets to go off on his Spurrier diatribe, because the old ball coach had some words yesterday.
I love Spurrier. He makes college football fun. All right, first 66.
Who you got for 66, Bobby?
I picked Doug Dawson, former offensive lineman, All-American, played for the Houston Oilers, grew up a Houston native, played at Memorial High School back in the day. He actually did some cool stuff after school and after the NFL. He brought Snapple as a distributor to the Houston area. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. I think he ended up selling that company and did quite well for himself. But an old Memorial Mustang doing it right for himself. He was my number 66. Who did you have, Blake? Because you did some more research on this. I know the Sewells, and who else?
Yes. So Harley Sewell, as you said, and then Herb Gray as well. So those were the other two 66s. But I had to dig way back for those. They both played in the 50s, I believe. So
what did you learn about Sewell that was interesting?
Yeah, so it says that his journey to Texas is the stuff of football folklore. He was discovered working atop a telephone pole in the tiny town of St. Joe, Texas. A recruiter ended up finding him, shouted up to the telephone pole, "How would you like to play football for the University of Texas?" And just like that, a Longhorn legend was born.
When was that?
Does anybody know where St. Joe actually is?
I've never heard of it.
Me neither. I'm about to have to look it up.
It is. It is by Munster.
Oh, wow.
In Nakona, some of the better smalls. It's Red River. It's due north of Fort Worth, about an hour and a half. I mean, you're talking right up on the Red River, probably 15, 20 miles but in between Munster and Nakona. So
wow,
I'd never heard of it.
I've never heard of St. Joe, Texas.
I've never heard of it.
I put a few miles on the car in Texas during the day.
Yeah.
I've been through there and didn't even know it. Population 880 is, by the way, so very, very, very small town.
It wasn't hard to find him. It may have been the only telephone pole in town.
Very true. Hey, a quick follow-up, fellas, before we get to Jerry's deal. Josh, he says no name is decided. We don't know the gender.
All right, chat. Time for your input. Josh's probably got about 3 hours left.
All right, Jerry, one thing I know you've been waiting on yesterday, Steve Spurrier makes mention of Arch Manning, and he says, most people are picking Texas to win the SEC in football. They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. My question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? He was a 7th-round pick.
Okay, so I'll start because Bobby and I'll have different takes on this, but I love it. Here's why I love it. If you haven't followed Steve Spurrier, like I love Spurrier because I think he's great for college football, always has been. He would have been unbelievable in his coaching heyday on social media today. I mean, like he'd have made Lane Kiffin look like a zero. I love it. It brings more attention, and this is what Spurrier does. If you go back and look at the history of Spurrier, think about some. Blake, I think you have some of those quotes about Peyton Manning in Tennessee. Here, Bobby. I think there's two things with Spurrier. One, he wanted the Texas job, and they didn't hire him while he was at Florida. And two, Peyton Manning picked Tennessee over Florida in high school. And competitors always are going to be competitors, right? But Spurrier, like, okay, you can't spell citrus without UT. I know why Peyton Manning came back for his senior year. He wanted to be a 3-time Citrus Bowl MVP. I mean, Spurrier's a hilarious guy and a world-class S-talker, but there's him and the Mannings have a friendly little rivalry thing, and that doesn't go away. It's competitive.
Well, I will say this. He's also from the state of Tennessee. So he grew up before he went to Florida. He was a recruit from Tennessee. So there's that. I would say this. He is an equal opportunity offender.
Yes.
So it's not just about University of Tennessee, not about Manning. I mean, his takes on Florida State back in the day.
Baby.
Yeah, he thinks he basically said at a Gator event that FSU stood for Free Shoes University.
His comment on Auburn was unbelievable, Bobby, back in the day.
What did he say about Auburn? I can't remember.
You'd have to find the exact quote, but it was, I think, a library burned, and
yes, the coloring books.
It was about the players reading coloring books instead of going to class. He took a shot at Auburn academics.
Oh boy, no, but guys like Spurrier, Lane Kiffin nowadays, Mike Leach, they make the world go round. It's the world, and you don't have to agree with them, okay? But they make the world a little bit more interesting with them in it, you know. And so I understand your inclination towards him, Jerry. I don't have anything negative. I would say this: if you could bring the quote back up, actual quote, and I wrote about this today on ontexasfootball.com. So here's my take on it. Okay, Arch. I think that there are aspects of the Texas offense that would have been much better under Arch Manning last year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I also think that Quinn Ewers took this team to a playoff, not 1 year in a row, but not 1 year, but twice. Okay. And I think that experience outweighed talent a year ago in the eyes of Steve Sarkisian, who knew he had a really good football team and, frankly, whose defense led the team. Last year was a defensive-led football team. Will we all agree with that? I mean, I know they had some pieces on offense, don't get me wrong, but it was a defense-first football team. I mean, they went to A&M, and they didn't allow an offensive point. Okay, this was a defensive football team last year. And I think that Steve Sarkisian said, why am I going to change? Why am I going to – I mean, because, look, Arch Manning in his first year as a starter, we talked about it here. There's going to be a little bit of a wild card aspect to him. He's not going to be, reined in so easily. Quinn Ewers, Sark knew what he was going to get pretty much every game. Now, there may be, deltas between a great Quinn Ewers and a mediocre one, but it wasn't something that he couldn't game plan with. And so while I hear what he's saying and it makes you question him, like I don't mind Steve Spurrier saying this. I just think context is key.
Yeah. Context is key. Look, my thoughts on this are, I doubt Steve Spurrier woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'm going to call somebody and throw this out there. Obviously, he did an interview and somebody asked him a question. Think about a Mike Leach. Think about a Steve Spurrier. Rest in peace, Mike Leach. Whether you liked it or not, you weren't getting coach speak from those guys. You were just going to get their real opinion, their real thought. Some of it's great and some of it's wrong, but I've always enjoyed Steve Spurrier. And by the way, somebody said boycott his restaurant. I'm the opposite. I've been to that restaurant before when I've been going through Florida to schools. If you like college football and history and you go to the Texas Florida game, I'd go in there for an hour. It's pretty cool.
It's worth a cocktail, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They've done a good job with that. I was surprised. I figured it would just be kind of just a regular price, but all the memorabilia is in there. The Heisman, there's a ton of stuff in there. It's pretty cool.
That's good. I mean, look, that's one of the things that's great about being in the SEC is Texas gets to go see new places this year.
Yes, fans. I love it.
Georgia, at Florida, at Kentucky. I mean, has anybody ever been to those? If you're a Texas fan, like I've been to a Florida game before, but it was Florida State. Texas had nothing to do with it. And so my point is that's part of the fun. Go visit those places if you get a chance to get out there.
Oh, 100%.
Have a drink and sit back and look at all the memorabilia and kind of soak it in. Because a lot of people, I will say this, like if you're watching this show, okay, you're undeniably a Texas Longhorn fan. But I would say 75 to 80% of you are also college football fans.
Yeah.
In general. Now you may prefer the Longhorns and all that stuff, but you're watching a little football on Saturday afternoons. Let's put it that way. And so soaking in that history, I think if you get a chance to go over there, Spurrier, in my opinion, is benign. I mean, he's not a even though he says this stuff, it's just kind of giggle and go on,
Hey, by the way, not that Arch Manning looks at these things and would need more motivation. That's not how he's wired, but it can't hurt.
Oh, I imagine Peyton might send him a note.
Peyton doesn't have scoreboard. He's got a little issue in that one.
Yeah, Peyton may put one on the old ball coach for me.
Yeah. Win one for the family.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We got Tony Hills, Hump Day with Hills, coming up here in just a little bit. But first, I want to get to the super chat here from Jeff Carey. Thank you, Jeff. He says, Jerry, where's this class going to be ranked?
It'll be top 5 by December. It may be top 3 by late July if Texas has a good run here in the next 2 weeks.
Hey, let's look at the commitments for a second, Jerry. There's 2 things I want to do, actually. So I want to look at the commitments and talk a little bit about these 15 guys, because the one thing I hate that happens, but it naturally happens every year, is once you commit to a school, it doesn't matter whether it's Texas or Florida or Alabama or Georgia or Timbuktu. Once you commit, the focus of fans automatically go onto the next one, right, Jerry? They go on to the next guy. Okay, who do we got to get next? I want to bring up Richard Wesley right now in this group because he was at the Rivals camp this week up in Indianapolis, and to say that he was impressive for a young guy is, from what we saw and what we heard, would be an understatement. Is that accurate in your what you've heard and saw as well? And is there anybody else you want to mention in this list that you want to keep kind of going back to?
Yeah, I think, look, Jermaine Bishop's a special playmaker, and because he committed earlier, didn't make all the visits, the Floridas, the LSU, and all that. I think sometimes, to your point, Bobby, it's kind of forgotten how good somebody really is. I think Cohen Brown, from a fit standpoint and a winning mentality, Chris Stewart was an early commitment, so sometimes it's forgotten he's really talented. Offensive linemen don't get a lot of attention, but Nicholas Robertson's really talented guard, I think. But Richard Wesley, look, I think his upside is really, really high. And his frame is going to be a 6'5", 275-pounder. And he's going to have – and some people – and I'm not sure he's quite as combine athletic as Lance Jackson is, but he's got a similar frame is what I would say. And guys can be 0.1 difference at a 40, but their frame and their abilities are very close together. And I think Richard Wesley, what he did is he came out to kind of prove a point yesterday. And look, those one-on-ones are what they are. It's always the defensive linemen do have an advantage in those naturally, but I will say this: the great offensive linemen I've seen handled it with ease. Laramie Tunzel dominated guys of this level in the one-on-ones. Kelvin Banks was tremendous against these guys in the one-on-ones. So offensive linemen that show exceptionally well here are normally exceptional. But the defensive linemen, the one-on-ones are set up for the defensive linemen. It is what it is in that setting. There's no run responsibility, right? So, but Wesley showed great power on contact yesterday.
He pushed Felix Ojo back into the quarterback. I mean,
into the dummy. Yeah. And that's, look, when you work against those offensive linemen and you're 245, those offensive linemen are 285, 290, even 320 at those events. And that he has the power to knock somebody back through the dummy, and the dummy is the only thing that stopped him, he's great sign for his natural power, which I do think is his strength is in power.
All right, guys. Well, before we bring in Tony Hills, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Omaha Steaks.
Yeah, put that big, nice picture up there, that juicy.
I got it, man.
All right. Look, Omaha Steaks has a special deal for folks right now. If you're getting ready for the 4th of July and have some plans out there to host folks, you're going to want to bring in the best steaks and food possible. Start with Omaha Steaks. From handcrafted steaks to family grilling favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience for all of your 4th of July grilling plans. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, and so much more. And now during their 4th of July sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. Again, promo code ONTexas at checkout. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917, a family-owned company with more than 100 years of expertise. They also carry mouth-watering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and desserts. Get fired up for the 4th with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their 4th of July sale. And for an extra $45 off, use promo code ONTexas at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. See site for details. Don't just believe me, by the way. I know Longhorn Frenzy bought some the other day and raved about the brisket burgers as well. Again, that's omahasteaks.com. Get an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout.
And I do want to tell everyone about Huel as well. If I can get the banner to come up. There we go. Summer doesn't slow down, and neither should your nutrition. Huel Black Edition Ready to Drink is a complete meal that's ready when you are. Toss it in your bag, hit the road, and fuel up without missing a beat. Their Black Edition Ready to Drink is a total game changer. It's a perfectly balanced meal that saves you time. It tastes good. It's good for you. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber, low sugar. You're going to feel full, focused, and ready for your day. Now, Huel's already sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. New customers get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use promo code ONTexas. So start saving time and money without compromising your nutrition today. Again, Huel.com, promo code ONTexas. That's going to get you 15% off plus that free gift at Huel, Huel.com. Please see their description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled.
All right, it's time to bring in the 285-pound porterhouse.
There we go. Tony Hills.
Hey, listen. Can y'all?
Tony Hills, that ain't made Tony Hills smile a little bit.
Yeah, man. Listen, I proclaim it. 285? Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to roll with that. We're going to roll with that.
You carry your weight well.
Yeah, listen, man, I ain't seen 285 since I was a freshman in college.
You're in a good place. All right, so Tony, what I'm going to ask you today, and I'm not asking you to break down a film, especially while you're driving 95 on I-20, but we're going to play Xavier Griffin, the 5-star pass rusher linebackers film, while we ask you what makes a really good pass rusher in your estimation. That's what I wanted to start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first step, quickness. So some of the most impressive pass rushers that you think of when I think of a Von Miller or I think of a JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, those type of guys, their first step quickness is immaculate. Also, their hand usage, being able to hand fight. That's another thing. Power in their hands. Understanding how to bend. We talked earlier about Brian Roberson. One of the things that helped him play as long as he did was his flexibility and his power through flexibility. Ankle mobility, right? Being able to stop and retrace and get back and chase. Track and retrace is what they call it. And then finally, awareness. And one of the things about awareness that I'll speak to is actually having spatial awareness, being able to understand what's going on around you, even though you're not, looking at it per se. So I would say that those are some of the things. And then also, I'll end with this part too, Jerry, is being able to have pass rush plans and counter moves. Yeah. Some of the best pass rushes that I've ever gone against, man, when you stop their initial move, they have counter moves off of initial moves, and those are the ones that really make it hard as an offensive lineman to go against, because it's like, man, I shut this first thing down. Now this guy has a counter move and then a counter move off of that. At that particular time, man, it's one of those things to where you just get out there, you do the best you can, because you're not going to shut them all down. And so that's what I've seen. Guys that usually are like a one-trick pony, if you're just a speed rush guy, or if you're just a really strong guy, those guys can pretty much be handled, game in and game out.
Let me ask you this. Effort, Tony. Just bottom line effort. We just saw Xavier Griffin chase down a play. Literally, he was 35 to 40 yards away from the ball, and he made the tackle near the goal line. Okay? How much want to and desire is in a football player? What is it? What does that show from a football player? Because I hear you about first step quickness and all that other stuff, but you're talking about retracing and coming back into a play. That's want to a little bit, right? That's desire. I just see that with this kid, and I'm wondering what role that plays in a pass rusher.
Yeah, I mean, listen. So you're talking about, there's levels to everything, Bobby, right? You have your good, you have your great, and you have your elite. The elite players, especially when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, effort usually is not really discussed because it's already being seen on tape, right? There's no need to talk about effort if I want to be an elite player, because that's going to be shown on tape every single time. It does make a difference. That's the thing that separates those levels, right? You might have a guy that's extremely talented, but when it comes to him playing every down, you don't see that, right? And so that's the thing that says, okay, he's a great talent, but this guy really doesn't get after it every single play, which is quiet as kept is why some guys fall in the draft, because those things are looked at. The guys that play with the greatest effort are the guys that love the game the most. Those are the guys that want to respect the game. Those are the guys that understand where they came from, what they had to endure, and they have an opportunity to change that. And they're going to be grateful for that opportunity day in and day out. And they're going to show that. And listen, what you're seeing on tape is just a production, more than likely, of how that particular individual practices. Right. I can remember practicing with Antonio Brown, and we would have to wait for practice from time to time or roll in other receivers, because every single time, no matter what it was, if it was a quick slant, or if it was a bubble screen, if it was a hitch route, if it was a 12-yard dig, whatever it was, he's going straight to the end zone every single time he catches the ball. Right. So now when you see that on Sunday, you're like, oh, my God, look at these amazing plays. But that's who he was game in and game out, day in and day out. So effort is tremendously important.
Hey, one of the questions this leads into, I've always wanted to ask you, whether it was college or whether it was pro, how much do offensive linemen and defensive linemen sit there and talk about what y'all on the same team, obviously, talk about plans, discuss, hey, what would you do if I did this to you? How much does that discussion actually happen amongst teammates and offensive line, defensive line, pass rush stuff?
All the time. It's no different than being in a workspace and going to your coworker and having them look at a particular report that you're doing to see if they see something different. I remember when I was in New Orleans, man, I used to go in with the defensive line and chop it up with Cam Jordan. He would run the defensive line rooms on our off season, not our off season, but on our off days. And I would chop it up with him and just listen to the things that he had to say. And they would ask me questions like, hey, T Hills, how would you play this? And I would tell them, and I would ask the same questions. Like, we all want to get better. You know, we all want to be great. And most importantly, we all want to contribute when our name is called. And so if we have any type of resources, especially resources like that, to be able to, I mean, Cam's still doing this thing now. So to be able to gain all that experience from that greatness and have those conversations, now when I'm playing a particular player, it gives me an extra edge because I understand why you're trying to rush me this particular way. One of the other things that I used to do, even with Von Miller and Elvis Dumerville, I used to ask them, hey, man, if you're playing me in the game, how do you attack me? Where do you see my weaknesses? Right. And they would tell me so that I could go in and strengthen those and work on those. Right. But that also takes some humility, too. You know, Jerry, like, you have to be wanting to have those answers and wanting to have those conversations. So that's another part of it.
That leads me into this, Tony, real quick, Bobby. I know you know Trevor Gooseby. I was told that Justice Terry, the freshman defensive lineman in the spring, went to Trevor Gooseby and a couple other offensive linemen and said, hey, if I do this, what's your counter to me? How impressive is that as a freshman in college that's still supposed to be a senior in high school?
That's somebody that wants it.
Want to.
Yeah, that's somebody that wants it. That's exactly what I'm speaking to. Like, this is somebody that says, listen, I respect who you guys are, respect what you guys have done, and I'm going to humble myself enough, forget all of the 5 stars and all of that, because none of that stuff, listen, it's cool for the magazines, but none of that stuff matters when you put on the pass at the next level. At the next level, this is the thing that I love about the game of football. It doesn't matter what I did in high school when I go to college. It doesn't matter what I did to college when I go to the pros. The only thing that matters is what I show at that level day in and day out. And so for him to be able to go in there and ask that type of question shows me that he's the type of individual that's not only thinking about now, but he's thinking about the future. And you can mark my words, that type of thought process spills out and exudes leadership. That's a guy that will take over at some particular point in time and lead the younger guys the right way as he continues to progress over time, because he's already thinking like a leader now. That's a leadership type question. And leadership comes in many different forms. Everybody thinks of a leader as somebody that's out in front, but the best leaders that I've been around, they lead wherever they're needed. So if I need to lead from behind, I will. If I need to be in the middle of the pack, I will. Or if I need to step up in front and this is my particular moment where they need my strengths, I will. So that's excellent that he did that. And I'm hoping that the kids that watched this show today that just heard that question asked, that they take notes on that, because that's how you become great in this league.
You search for your own weaknesses at times and then try to improve on those. And here's my question that I immediately thought of this. How does a football team, because this is a person's business, like I help run this business, right? So I'm always looking for where we're weak and how we can get better, et cetera. How does a coach engender that same sort of response among his players? Like, how does a coach tell the offensive lineman, hey, you should be asking the defense about your move, about the moves, about how you're playing them? How does that become a common thing amongst the entire team? Or does it just happen naturally? I mean, what's the thought process there?
I think it happens naturally. I think those are individuals that have this certain type of thought process. But what also happens is that other people get wind of those type of things, and then they say, you know what, well, let me do the same thing. Right. So I don't know if it's a situation to where a coach tells you kind of how to do that. Like, nobody, at the end of the day, people can give you advice, but nobody can really tell you how to be great. Right. Greatness is something that comes intrinsically. Right. That question that came from Justice wasn't, hey, man, you should go ask this guy how to do. No, that was an intrinsic thing. Like, listen, you know what? I respect this guy's game. I respect what he does. If I want to get better, let me go and try to see what they're looking at as it pertains to me. And that's called self-awareness, and that's called self-reflection, right? So if the head coach gets up there and say, "Hey guys, you guys should be talking to each other and figuring out yada yada," it removes the authenticity from it. It's not to say that you might not get anything from it, but the people that weren't going to ask that question are still not going to ask that question, and the people that are going to ask that question are still going to ask that question. So it's authenticity when it comes to things like that.
That's what Rod Babers talks about all the time, is exactly that. I mean, you got to want to. Rod calls himself a football investigator, but it really started when he was in high school and college. He said he wanted to know more of how people saw him and how he needed to play vis-a-vis that thing. Jerry, do you have something else for Tony?
No, Tony covers it all. I mean, he's a 285-pound porterhouse with great takes.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Listen, I gotta say something to Blake. Blake, you said one of those drinks. I forgot the name of it. It says something about low sugar.
Yep. Pure.
Yeah, I don't want no parts of that, man. I had homemade oatmeal pies during Father's Day. I want all the sugar that I can have. They've been lying to y'all, Coffee and Football, OTF, Longhorn Nation. They've been lying to you guys about sugar. If you're somebody that loves sugar, have as much as you want. Here's the thing. It's when you're not working out. So here's what you do. Go take a 20-minute walk and then eat 20 oatmeal pies. And if you continue to do that over and over again, it all balances out, man. These people with this low sugar stuff, y'all can miss me, man, where y'all can't kiss me. You understand? Like, I don't want no parts of that.
Hey, Tony, you know what you just revealed without knowing it? You would have connected Nick Saban out of high school because he would have brought out an oatmeal cream pie on the visit, and it would have been over. You would have had to call back and say, Matt, I love you, bud, but not happening. I'm going to play for Nick Saban. And Mac would have said, "What? Why, Tony? Why?" And you just said he gave me an oatmeal cream pie.
Well, this is the thing. What Mac had that Nick Saban did. Oatmeal cream pies, that's my jam, man. But look, y'all talking about brisket burgers? Oh my God, that's what gets me. Like if I gotta take a choice between the oatmeal cream pie and a brisket burger, the brisket burger is gonna win all day long. And I'm just throwing that out there. I had I forget the young man's name that saw me at the gym, but if he's watching this, man, I haven't forgot about you. I'm going to reach out to you. But if y'all ever see me out and y'all just want to walk up to me with those Little Debbie oatmeal pies and hand them to me, that is the key to my heart, man. We definitely taking a picture and I'm signing whatever y'all need. You know, it's called value exchange. That's how I look at it.
Dennis Francione was famous for the Little Debbies on the sidelines as well. Jerry, he wasn't quite as successful though as Nick Saban, so he's not.
There's a 77-0 score with Oklahoma picture of Dennis somewhere out there on the internet.
Blake? Yeah, by the end of the third quarter, by the way.
I'm looking.
I need it. We need it. Absolutely.
This one for Tony today. He needs this one.
Hang on.
So, Tony, we appreciate you so much, buddy. You be good, man. Have a good weekend and enjoy yourself, buddy.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys. Hook 'em for life.
Okay, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Always
fun. Always fun.
Oh, third quarter, 1:58 to go. Oof.
Love
it.
Love it. Like this is love
it. That photo, there's two photos out there that are amazing in college football. That's one of them. The other one is Frank Beamer with his arms up after the missed field goal. It's 0-0 against Wake Forest going into overtime. One of the worst college football games I've ever watched.
Oh, I got you. Hang on.
That may have been the most uninspiring college football game I've ever seen. But
it was 0-0.
The celebration at 0-0 at the end of regulations an all-timer for me. That's when you know your tenure's coming to an end.
All right, Jerry. Tell us about Vaughn Lane, please.
Yeah, y'all don't know it, but Tony was in a Vaughn Lane. He owns his own Vaughn Lane. All right, you tired of flying? You tired of driving? Now it's time to upgrade to Vaughn Lane, the smarter way to travel between major Texas cities. And for our out-of-state listeners, Vaughn Lane now connects Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta. Hey, SEC Media Days, Atlanta. Let's face it, flying is a hassle. Security lines, packed gates, delayed flights, all for a 50-minute trip. Not worth it. Driving isn't much better every time. Ever tried that same day round trip between Dallas and Austin? Yes, many times. Hours of lost productivity, emails piling up, calls going unanswered, work left undone while you focus on the road. And people going around you 95 miles an hour, by the way, kind of makes you focus on the road. Why waste the day when you can stay connected and productive with Vaughn Lane? Vaughn Lane changes everything. It's luxury regional bus travel. We call it a private jet on wheels. Sink into plush leather seat with a leg rest. Stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi. Enjoy complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, plus delicious meals on select departures. Need to freshen up? Indulge in hot towel surface. Want to relax? We got eye masks, pillows, and blankets just to keep you cozy. See for yourself. Visit VaughnLane.com. That's VaughnLane.com and use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. I think we've had a couple of people in the OTF community take Vaughn Lane recently that have been in the chat and said it was a great experience.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a suggestion. How about Vaughn Lane Manning for for Joshy so he can get down to the games on time this football season? Hey, also want to say thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery. For those of you who aren't familiar, they've been with us for almost a year now. It's the award-winning wine from Central Texas, and it's the winery closest to downtown Austin. And let's listen to this. They just got a new award last week, I believe it was. They scored 98 out of 100 for their Super Texan. There it is on the screen right there. Out in San Francisco, it was named the #1 red blend in the country. #1 red blend in the country. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. You can use the QR code there on our screen to check them out. Again, Flat Creek Estate Winery. Make sure you check them out. Just a minutes outside of downtown Austin.
All right, fellas, let's jump back into some more questions. We got some super chats. We're going to start with Spence GP2. T2, excuse me. Thank you for the super chat. He said, shout out Tony Hills. Ran into him at the gym on my birthday this past year. So, yes, everybody loves Tony. No doubt about it. And then the loin girder. Thank you for your super chat. If we lose out on Calicut and Benjamin, who else or who do you see as next targets for Texas at safety? Also, Blake, you got to race Krista now and show everyone who is faster. Money is on your wife. Hook 'em. Krista would get
the funny thing about her comment, she actually told Blake she was going to the library, but she went to work out. So she's trying to lull him into a race right now. So Blake, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. She told you she was going to the library. Look, the thing I've said about Texas recruiting in 25, when you can take into account what in 26 is, Zealous Hicks and Grayson Littleton weren't on the radar right now. And they ended up being two tremendous players in this class. So if Devon Benjamin opts for Oregon, if Calicut opts for Georgia, then I'm not really worried about Texas. Even if one of those guys did opt in for Texas, Texas will keep looking senior year.
Yeah, and the same can be said at corner.
Yeah.
I mean, Shamari Matthews, Smoke Matthews out of Charlotte, North Carolina, really the only corner that Texas is actively recruiting right now that's not committed already, that's still on the board. So it goes not just to safety, it goes to corner as well. And to Jerry's point, I think there can be late risers in the secondary or interesting guys that come up. So we'll see where that goes. We feel very strongly that Calicut's coming down to Texas and Georgia. I feel like Georgia had a little bit of a lead, but I want to explain this, and I tried to explain this morning on the website on Texas football. Calicut has been a guy whose recruitment, and Jerry can vouch for this, he's been on the precipice of committing to multiple schools throughout the process. And what I mean by that is maybe in January, if he were to close it down, it would have been Texas. There was a time in February and March where it could have been Michigan if he would have closed it down. Then Georgia, then back to Texas, then maybe back to Georgia. What that means to me is that if he hasn't completely decided, I think this is an open recruitment going into the last 48 hours. And it's whoever's pitch he buys at that point. And I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to say this. I've seen this recruitment and type of recruitment, and so has Jerry, play out over the last 30 years.
And there's the last 24-hour, 48-hour sit downs with your family. And it gets really real at that point in time.
Yeah. And so to Jerry, and I know Jerry feels the same way because we've talked about it offline. This is one of those recruitments where there's been a lot of figuring out, and I'm not pushing that button one way or the other at this point. I know Georgia thinks they had some momentum yesterday and the day before, maybe. Let's see where that ends up, because I will say this: Texas has been doing really well late in recruitments. Let's see what that trend looks like going forward.
Corey J asked if we talked Xavier Crowell yet. We have, but we'll just reiterate that one or go back on that a little bit. He's the first to come off the board. He announces tomorrow, barring something unforeseen today. And it's a big one. Look, Texas is fighting on this. Xavier Crowell Texas is all in. And if he goes to Alabama, then look, he wants to stay home and play for the Crimson Tide. I mean, bottom line. And that's kind of what we said this is going to come down to. I mean, Robert Gillespie's had one job in this class, and that's to get Xavier Crowell to Alabama once he reclassified. But Texas has had him on campus as much as anybody, maybe outside the state is more than anybody. And him and his mom, they really like Texas. And I think Texas, as Steve Sarkisian, I think is personally involved here in this recruitment. And I think we'll see which way it goes. But if Texas loses out to Alabama, I can tell everybody in the chat, they've done everything they can to win it. They are all in. This is an all-in recruitment for both those schools.
Sark is leading the recruitment of Xavier Crowell right now. I think that speaks volumes. So we'll see whether Robert Gillespie, the running back coach, or Chad Scott, whoever, if Sark's the guy, Sark's the guy. Let's see what happens. Kalen DeBoer better be doing the same. That's all I'd say.
Speaking of missing on Crowell happens, Waves Deep and a couple of other people have asked Jerry, who's left at running back?
Senior year. Decommitment, a flip, somebody they like. They've looked at a lot of guys in state and out of state, but it would be a senior year thing. The answer is not. There isn't one right now.
Yeah, there's a kid out of New Boston they've talked to a little bit. There's a kid out of was it one of the Mansfield schools, I think. A kid at North Forney,
El Paso.
El Paso, but they haven't pulled the trigger. So maybe, to Jerry's point, senior year.
And remember, they send the stay on those guys all the way through. Yep. I got to answer one hoops question because this got asked, and it's relevant to Texas. At TABC this past weekend, what was your take on Bryson Howard? That his dad, Josh Howard, played for Dallas Mavs. He's up at one of the Frisco schools. I think it's Memorial. I watched him Saturday before my sickness set in. I think he was I watched him Friday night. Then I got started feeling really ill Saturday afternoon. He's officially visiting Texas for a football game in September. He has offers from everybody. He's a lefty, really talented player. What's interesting is you have Austin Gooseby, who Texas gets an OV from, Duke, UCLA. There's a few out there with him. You have Bo Ogden. Kansas offered Bo yesterday. Congrats to Bo, who's now at Westlake. That's awesome for him. More people are starting to offer him now that it's getting closer to see if they can see what can happen there. So I think people saw he took 2 visits to Purdue, and they're like, okay, this kid's really good. We need to offer him. And then you have Brian, and then you have Howard. So chances are, zero chance all 3 of those guys end up in the same high school, at the same college, I should say. So it'll be interesting to see how all this works out with the numbers, and because you're not going to have big high school classes here. You're not going to take 3 guard wing players because Texas is in on a couple of point guards nationally as well. And then they want to get a big in that class. I mean, you could see 3, maybe 4 high school class, but it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out because all 3 of those guys will not go to the same school. That is a 100% guarantee.
And let's see. On basketball, while we're on it, David wants to know, when is Miller going to rouse up the high?
Well, They have an official visitor this week. Hold on, I got to hit my cough button. Sorry. They have an official visitor, Sammy Jackson, on campus right now. 6'7" wing kid. I think I'd be a little surprised on that one. The bulk of this is going to happen in September. Texas will bring in a lot of guys for OVs, and obviously signing days in early November. But there's not a rush right now. Texas is in on a lot of really good players, and there's going to be some high-level kids in the high school level make official visits to Texas. But again, they could opt for 2 high school guys. They might opt for 3. But we'll see where that goes because obviously it's going to be a combination of high school and portal in recruiting for any of these colleges. So they may have 10 official visitors come through, and they may all be ranked in the top 100 in America. But that's essentially for 2 or 3 spots.
NBA draft tonight. Somebody mentioned that in the chat there as well.
Somebody said happy Cooper Flag Day. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. Good luck to everybody tonight. Wonder where Trey Johnson is going to go. Some
Top
people,
7.
Some people are saying 7.
5 to 7, I think is, and that's look. That's great. By the way, on Trey and these 1-year guys, it's often forgotten. He will come back as a Texas fan forever. Kind of like KD does. And sometimes that gets lost because, look, these guys didn't maybe come back, and if they don't finish college, TJ Ford came back and finished college. Roy Ivy, Roy had it done before, but there's been a number of guys that have come back and finished school. But Trey Johnson is a Texas fan. I mean, when he came through his recruitment, when he came to Texas on his recruitment, he wanted to go see the football facility. He wanted to go meet Arch Manning. He wanted to go see Steve Sarkisian. He is one of these guys that will be Miles Turner, KD. They'll be back. He'll be on the sidelines for football games. He is a Texas fan, and those guys are very valuable to the University of Texas, whether they ever finish their degree or not, because that guy's going to average 20 points a game in the NBA for a decade. He'll be on an all-star team if he does it right, if he stays healthy. Those guys are great ambassadors for the University of Texas, whether they ever walk the stage or not.
And before we get back to football, guys, we have a super chat from Jackson S. asking about baseball. He says, any concerns about the recent portal entries? I assume you're talking about Cole Chamberlain, the catcher that entered the portal last night. No, not at all. Texas has a freshman coming in out of Louisiana that the staff feels like he's ready if he needs to take that backup role. And of course, they'll explore other options, but no concern.
Well, at catcher, they also have just to be clear, they have the All-American from Notre Dame that they out through the portal. So that's a big one, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. So Carson Tenney will be the starter for sure.
So the ones that just baseball real quick, the guys that have moved on, Tommy Farmer, Will Gasparino, Ace Whitehead, any other big names in that group that you would say?
I'm looking at the list right now. I mean, no, not really. I will say that Chamberlain's probably the first one that they, how can I put this? That they really probably wanted to fight for it to stay. But with Kenny's commitment, it is what it is. It's just one of those things. But yeah, no. Otherwise, I wouldn't say there's like any major losses across the board, especially since they've done so well in the portal, for sure.
Got it.
All right, let's jump back into football, fellas. A lot of people asking about class size this morning. Kyle, for example, he says if Texas gets 10 of those, and I'll put that commitment list up here in just a second. That's what he's talking about. 10 of the 17, they'll be at 25 for the class. Do you see this class going to 28, maybe even 29?
Yes, with 3 specialists. Yes. That's the key.
And, of course, I'm going to put these back up, Jerry. We've had a lot of people join since we first looked at this list. So I'm going to let you kind of run over it real quick.
I had a question for Jerry, because for those that have been with us the whole time, too, they've heard Jerry's take on all these guys. Jerry, you look at this list. Who are some guys that are underrated? And like, I know from talking to you that you feel like Malachi Lee, underrated. Yeah. Damari Simeon, underrated. Kendall Gerville, Trenton Henderson, underrated. I think Cozy Akpala is underrated. Is it I mean, just look at the teams recruiting those guys to the very end. And I just feel like they're a lot of underrated guys that there are big bodied players from the trenches, essentially.
Yeah. Look, I think Malachi Lee is as good as anybody on the offensive line. And I think he's better than some ranked ahead of him on the offensive line for sure. Again, I'm just going to go back to this. Like, he's not a guy that puts out a ton of huddle, right? So he doesn't even have a junior year huddle out. So you got to have the bits and pieces and look for it. But again, talking to college coaches, I mean, these guys made trips from Austin, Athens, Ann Arbor, Tuscaloosa, all the way out to Honolulu multiple times to see this guy. You don't do that for a guy ranked 300 in America. You just don't. There's too many other good offensive linemen in the Southeast region or around the country. Those guys think he's significantly better than any national ranking, and I happen to agree with them. So he brought up Turntine. Look, on Texas football, we've had Turntine as a 5-star and the 5-star offensive lineman in the state for well over a year. And he's the guy. I think he's a potentially great player. I'm on the record on that. Damari Simeon, he's interesting, and I think he's tremendous. I think he's been interesting because he wasn't a big go-to-camps guy. I think people were wondering how big he was. Was he 6'1", 265? Was he 6'1.5", 270? Well, he shows up on these visits this spring. I think at Texas, he was 6'2 1/4", 289, with an 80-inch wingspan and 10-inch hands. Okay. So then you look now at his recruitment after all those guys have been in to see him where he's at, and he's coming down to Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. I mean, if you're recruiting a defensive lineman from New Jersey and those are the 3 schools you're battling, that's the wheelhouse you want to be in. I think he has great arm length and usage of that arm length and hand strength and playing strength and natural power. I think he's really, really good. Trenton Henderson, I don't know where he's ranked, Nash. I haven't looked at the updates, but when I was through there in the spring, I was like, if there's 15 better prospects in America, somebody's going to have to show them to me. I don't believe there are. Just doing this a long time. Trenton Henderson's upside's through the roof, in my opinion.
Good stuff, Jerry. Thank you.
And I know we've talked a lot of recruiting. We got a couple of team-related questions as well, guys. Some offensive line questions this morning, actually, like this one from Nathan Raines. And Nathan asked, who do you think will be the starters along the offensive line this upcoming season?
Jerry, look, the odds-on favorites are these. Left tackle, Trevor Gooseby. Left guard, Nato Miyazulu. Center, Cole Hudson. Right guard, DJ Campbell. Right tackle, Brandon Baker. Those are the odds-on favorites.
Yeah.
Jerry, is there any weakness in that group? Like you could see somebody breaking through that group at this time? Does that make sense to you? Like, is there one like is a closer battle than maybe people are thinking?
I think those guys are in really good spots headed in the fall camp.
Okay.
Andre Kojo had his best spring he's had.
He would be a competitor right tackle to Brandon Baker.
Yeah. I think Nate Kibble's going to be a really good player, and if it's up to Neto to go perform. I think Nick Brooks is going to stay at tackle. If Nick Brooks if they tinker with moving him in the guard, things could get interesting. Because that's a lot of athletic power at that size. But I think right now he sticks at tackle. But if there's ever any talk of he's working at a guard spot, then somebody better be looking over their shoulder.
Horn 7 asks who is backup left tackle. It is Nick Brooks.
Nick Brooks.
Yep.
Somebody asked about Daniel Cruz. Look, I think
I was going to bring that up next.
I think Cruz has a very bright future. I also think he's on a learning the position and being 100% ready to go, calling everything, all the things other than after the ball snap, because he is a tremendous football player. It's all the learning a position that he just started playing part-time for the first time as a senior in high school and has really good players in front of him. But Daniel Cruz has a really bright future.
All right, Bobby, before we move on, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm one last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam and the Lowy Law Firm have been helping injured Texans for more than 20 years now. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, make sure you give Adam and his team a shout. Just visit loweylawfirm.com. Thing with Adam and his group, they'll give you a free, no strings attached consultation to see if they think you or your family member might be due compensation. Just reach out to them again, loweylawfirm.com. Thank you, Adam, for your sponsorship of On Texas Football.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And as I said, we got a couple of super chats here before we get out this morning. Let's start with Jay Lee. He says, don't we need Calicut just to end the North Shore drought? That's an important school, Sanchez in 25, etc.
What do you think, Jerry? I mean, we had this discussion on the On Texas Football message board a little bit yesterday. I think it got a little out of hand there. My take on it is it's not so much a drought. Somewhere along the way, Texas did a really good job at North Shore for a long period of time. And then all of a sudden, LSU started being the school for North Shore. And then it was A&M for a little bit. And Texas, even though they've done a great job with a Corey Redding, I mean, he's the most successful player ever from North Shore, okay, and lives in Austin now, by the way. So he loves it so much that he came back to Austin after a 10-plus year NFL career. Trey Hopkins, NFL career from North Shore. What happened there, Jerry? Why the fallout with Texas and North Shore? If there is one.
I don't even think, like, I'm a little different on this, and I obviously wasn't involved in that thread, but I've been going to the school for 2 decades plus, and I know those guys really well. Really well. A couple of those coaches have been there a long time. There's no anti-Texas over there.
But is there among the team or among the community that doesn't? I don't know. That's the question.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of LSU over there for sure. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau, because I was at ESPN during the time, and I was
Kayvon Chason, you mean Chason?
Sorry, yeah, Kayvon Chason, and I was at ESPN at the time, part of the National Recruiting Day shows, and I was the one that put together his commitment for televised for ESPN. He had told me the night before he announced it was Texas, right? And then he called me the morning of and said, "Hey, man, just letting you know so y'all can change graphics and whatnot." He said it's going to be LSU. And look, there wasn't anybody on the North Shore staff over that say, "That you're making a mistake," blah blah blah. That's not what's going on. And I've been going there too long. I know those guys. I think Mac Brown had a great relationship over there. And I think he forged great relationships over there. I do know the coach prior to Steve Sarkisian really struggled in that regard over there.
Tom Herman. I agree. Sometimes it's just people. It's not so much a university, it is people.
Yeah.
I mean, a university is nothing more than the people that comprise it.
Hey, by the way, and some of those you missed on, aren't you glad you did?
Jaden Roberts would have been nice.
Boy, he's a beast. He moved in from Kansas. He's a beast.
Jaden Roberts would have been nice. Chason would have been nice. Devin Sanchez last year would have been nice.
But then you have Denver Harris.
Yeah.
Then, I mean.
Yeah, I hear you.
Worked out with Zach Evans. You got Bijan.
Shadrack Banks, didn't really do much.
And by the way, they run a great program at North Shore. Great staff. John Kay, now the coach at Rice. They do a great job over there. Everybody thinks those are the easy jobs. I think those are actually the hard jobs.
Because of expectations.
Expectations. You have to be really disciplined staff. Be big on discipline. Reginald Samples. That's why Duncanville wins. I mean, you have to. There's so many good players. Now Duncanville's way ahead of North Shore. There's so many good players over there. There's so much happening around all these players. You have to have great discipline in your program to keep it all together. Now, and I'll always, one of the things in high school football that I will always give the utmost credit to is when John Kay had the stones for his program to send Zach Evans home the night before a state championship game.
Yeah.
A 5-star running back, and then went out and won the game. That's how you run a great program.
All right, we got one more super chat this morning. This one from Matt Henley. Thank you, Matt. He says, "Good morning, gentlemen. Starting to get the itch for August." I think we all are, Matt. When does it start for y'all? 26 class looks more stacked with in-state talent than 25. Your thoughts?
It's interesting because there's been more guys come on late in 26, I think. Like, there's great depth. But here's the thing I want to say. I don't think there's a bad year anymore, period, in Texas or Florida or Georgia for prospects at all. Like, I don't think if anybody's like in the state of Georgia covers, well, it's a little bit of a down year at one position. It's never a down year. It's never a down year in Texas or Florida. There may be a position that may be down, but there's just too many high-level players in these states right now. So can one class rise to the top over some others? Yeah. The one thing I'll say about the state of Texas is I don't see any drop-off. There may be one year where there's 4 less Power 4 prospects on the offensive line. I don't see a future class that's not tremendous on the offensive line in this state. Which means if Texas A&M, and everybody do their jobs and then go out and recruit nationally like they do, they're going to have tremendous players on the offensive line. And there's also enough to go around to the others if they evaluate well.
All right.
Just for me, I've got the itch for August already.
Oh, yeah.
I just want you to know, I'm ready for it. I've been ready, but June is a nice month because you close up a lot of recruiting these days. It kind of goes into the first 2 weeks of July. And then we're at the SEC Media Days, Jerry, in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, do you realize it's that close?
How long?
SEC Media Days is 3 weeks away. We're going to Atlanta. We'll have some coffee and football from Atlanta, but I'm ready for sure. Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I want to thank Adam, along with Huel and Omaha Steaks, for sponsoring today's show, and Flat Creek and Vaughn Lane as well. What was I going to say? My mind went blank there. Bobby, what do you have later today?
Absolutely. We got state of the program. Jerry, CJ, and I are going to break down some issues, talking about recruiting as well as team stuff that's going on right now. Then also tonight we have the live stream at 7:00. If there's any recruiting movement, you'll know about it there as well. And always we'll break in with breaking news if it's major news as well. Please visit us too on TexasFootball.com. The message boards are great way to keep up with the latest information. Right now we have a special going on, 1 year for $39.95. Use the promo code OTFOG if you're a first-time subscriber. That's OTFOG for $39.95 per year on TexasFootball.com. Jerry has a big recruiting article out this morning. I've got something. I know CJ and Jeff have stuff coming as well. So please join us.
It's recruiting season. Get your Mando. Gird up your loins. Bourbon leather.
It does smell good. I will say that. It smells really good, actually. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live or post content. And between that and on TexasFootball.com, we got you covered around the clock. Big thanks to Tony Hills for joining us each and every Wednesday. And I guess we'll be back tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.